That's yours.
Yeah, oh wait, but that's the minutes.
No, this is the agenda.
This is the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I'll find it. I can't find my agenda.
Right there. Oh, no, it's not.
I'll find it.
Okay, we're all set. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of North Branford Planning and Zoning for Thursday, October 6th. In attendance are regulars member Halpern, Sienta, Galdenzi, and Dulac. First order of business are the meeting minutes of September 15th. I think everybody here was present.
Yep.
So they were in your pack if you had a chance to look them over. If not, if you would take that time now.
I'm good.
Just make sure my collar doesn't run too Sure. Are you guys all set? Somebody like to make a motion, please?
I move to accept the minutes from Thursday, September 15th, 2016.
Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes 4-0. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Next order of business is a public hearing. Yep.
Yes.
Public hearing for PZ application 2016-12.
Just take that one in case it's changed. All right, this was sent to Laura Schrader, legal notice advertising for Shore Publishing. Please insert the following legal ad in the Sound on Thursday, September 22nd, 2016, and Thursday, September 29th, 2016. Legal notice, North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Thursday, October 6th, 2016, at the North Branford Town Hall, 909 Foxton Road, North Branford, Connecticut, to consider the following. Application 2016-12, amendment to zoning map for parcels at 2450 Foxton Road and 2470 Foxton Road for proposed extension of the existing B1 zone district boundaries. Owner applicant Scott Ballard, member. At this hearing, all interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies of proposals are on file for public inspection in the Town Hall Planning Department.
In attendance for this public hearing is regular members Galdenzi, Sienna, Halpern, and Dulac. Just to, if you haven't been to a public hearing before, I'm just going to kind of go with the processes. The applicant in a few minutes is going to make a presentation on his application. We might have some questions for him or back and forth. And time after that, we will open up the floor for anybody from the public that would like to speak on this matter. It's possible this public hearing may be continued over, but we'll make that determination and see how the process goes. This could be the only night, depending on some of the feedback we get, and if there's anything else that has to be done as far as the application goes, or any information that is needed to go forward. But at that point, did we get any cards back?
Yes. So we have the green cards. There were some cards that, all of the cards were mailed out. There were 3 cards where the owners did not retrieve the green card from the post office.
Okay.
And there was a change of ownership at one of them, so it was returned. And there was one property owner who requested that it be emailed to them. So we have proof that they were all sent
Okay.
out.
All right. So at this time, the applicant can go forward with your presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Bernard Pellegrino. I'm an attorney with the Pellegrino Law Firm in New Haven, and I represent the applicant, Scott Ballard, who is with me here this evening. And also with me is Bob Criscolo. He's a professional engineer who's the author of the maps that have been submitted with the application, which he'll run through for you in a few minutes. From an introductory standpoint, this is our application to rezone a portion of properties located at 2450 and 2470 Foxen Road as shown on this map. The majority of 2450 is currently zoned B1. This dotted line is the B1 zoning district. You can see it extends to the to the west and hammerheads, if you will, off, covering the majority of 2450. This application, and as you can see, the property is what I call split zoned, portion of two pieces of the property. The top third is R40, as is everything to the east and north.
Excuse me, can you, if you don't mind, can you kind of tilt that so the audience can see it as well?
Sure. Like that over here, that's all right if that helps. Is that good? Did I? Hope I didn't mess up your camera. So there's two pieces of the 2450 property that we're seeking to rezone to eliminate the split zone, the piece to the north, and this little piece right here on the west side. The property at 2470 is today all zoned R40, and we're seeking to rezone a portion of that. Maybe Bob can just stick that map because you don't see it there. A portion of that property, that piece located in the center of that property, to the B1 zoning district, which would extend the B1 zone into the 2470 parcel, leaving the remainder of the parcel as R40. When Bob gets up and talks to you and talks about the property and the topography and existing conditions today, I think the reasons why we're seeking to rezone this portion of that property may become more clear to you.
Let me just ask now, the piece to the north stays R40?
On 2470.
The one-
Nope.
That's
On
okay.
2450,
Okay, like a
this
bow
would
tie.
become
Yep.
B1. This little piece would become B1, and
That-
this piece, that portion of 2470 would become B1. Remainder of 2470 to remain R40. That property, as you may know if you've been there, is currently a mixed-use development containing both commercial and industrial uses, some of which have dated all the way back to 1961, when Mr. Ballard's predecessor in title acquired the parcel prior to zoning regulations in town. It contains a number of commercial and industrial uses which have been on that site for many years. And those uses are also currently taking place as pre-existing nonconformities, in both areas we're seeking to rezone. So those uses continue as legal pre-existing nonconformities. One of the benefits of this proposed zone change, in addition to eliminating the split zoning on this property, would be many of those uses which are permitted in the B1 zone, but located on that portion of the property which is presently zoned R40 would become conforming uses. And as you know, zoning abhors split zoning and abhors non-conforming uses. So this application seeks to resolve two of those issues on this site. The property at 2470 is essentially a vacant parcel, portion except for an existing residential structure closer to the road. Both pieces, by the way, have existing residences closer to the road. The commercial uses begin a couple hundred feet back from the road as these parcels go back. They're both, give or take, about 8 acres in size. Many years, well, a number of years ago, this portion of 2470 was excavated down. It now matches the grade of the parcel at 2470 in this area, sloping back to a higher topography. We think the highest and best use for that portion of this land is for the extension of the B1 zone for commercial uses permitted in the B1 zoning district. We think it's a logical extension given the uses to the west, including Mr. Ballard's uses on his site, that it is the highest and best use of the property. We think the current topographical conditions, which Bob will spend some more time talking to you about, makes it suitable, provides buffering and screening, so it protects neighboring residential uses by virtue of its topography. In addition to the fact that we would be eliminating split zones and eliminating non-conforming uses, plus extending the B1 zone onto 2470, which we believe is its highest and best use, the proposal we would suggest to you is in accordance with your plan of conservation and development. If you look at the proposed future use map, which is in the plan of development, as you may have already, I'm sure you've noticed that the proposed future use map suggests that this entire parcel be made uniform and be zoned B1. So in adopting the plan of conservation and development, it was anticipated and seems to be suggested that this parcel is best served as zoned entirely B1. And there's a lot of reasons, some of which I've already mentioned, others which I would suggest from an economic development standpoint makes sense, which brings us to 2470. If you look further at the plan of conservation and development as it talks to your Route 80 corridor, the plan suggests strengthening the commercial industrial spine of that particular area of in town to promote your commercial and industrial uses. We obviously think that our site's an important part of your commercial industrial use. Mr. Ballard is utilizing the property with businesses that we believe contribute to the town's economic well-being, and therefore we believe that the proposal to rezone not only 2450 but 2450 and 2470 is in accordance with that portion of your plan of conservation and development, which is looking to support and grow the commercial industrial corridor in this area of town. Obviously, it's the connectivity of the 2470 parcel and the portion of that piece which we're proposing to rezone to the rest of the B1 zoning district in this area is a logical extension, and one that we hope that you would look favorable upon. The last thing I wanted to mention before I turn it over to Bob is that in addition to all of these factors, we believe that the proposed rezoning of the parcel is beneficial both to the town and to Mr. Ballard, because rezoning these properties as set forth on this map would bring clarity and order to the future development and redevelopment of this site as he and the town moves forward into the future. It would serve to promote the generation of uses obviously permitted in the B1 zone, which is what he would market 2470 to do. It could also lead to the potential reduction of non-conforming uses, especially in those portions of the existing 2450 site. And all of those factors, in addition to the ones I mentioned, we think make sense for you to for you to rezone these two parcels as set forth in the application. Unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to Bob.
Just have one, excuse me, one quick one. On the north section of 2450, you mentioned that there was some commercial business since like 1960, which is considered non-conforming right now. What are those types of businesses that are being that are in that location?
I've outlined them in the application throughout the site. In that northern section, I believe we have a portion of the commercial trucking operation, which is non-conforming as it pertains to its
The northern parcel, you said?
You can see the photo. Show the trailers there.
Yep.
Yeah, I just can't tell what else is going. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what the actual operation is.
Storage, trailer storage.
Trailer storage, equipment storage. The main repair garage is located on
On the current
B1, current B1
Right.
side, but there are other uses related to that business, storage of trailers, trucks, parking, et cetera, that does take place in the northern portion. There's a fueling station. There's a couple of smaller operations, logging and wood cutting. I think those are the main ones that are taking place in that northern portion of the property.
I'm just gonna pass down, this is an affidavit talking about the pre-existing non-conforming uses that the property owner signed.
You said fueling station in the northern portion.
This photograph that came in the package, it shows parts of the trailer is actually over the boundary. Does he also own that property?
He does. I don't think that's still the
Oh,
case,
accurate.
but he does own this entire piece here.
And joining the properties on 2450 makes it all B1, but then you're creating a split zone in 2470.
It does. However,
How does it clarify it? If you're joining one, clearing one lot, then you're creating a split zone in the second lot?
I think the benefit there to not requesting that the entire portion be rezoned, which we initially considered, was by leaving this area, which is going to be difficult to develop based on its topography, you create essentially an additional buffer to the rest of the residential zone. So we thought it best, since it's probably gonna be difficult to develop, to leave that section R40 for the protection of the remaining R40 properties to the east.
Where's
And
the,
north.
where's the entrance to the properties? So that'd be on the west side?
That's the,
West side of the property, northwest?
Yes.
North?
Yeah.
South.
Southeast.
South.
So-
Yeah.
North, south.
Yeah.
Are there any, to the east, are there any non-conforming to the east? You mentioned the ones on the north, logging, fuel,
On this piece currently, no non-conforming presently.
just the north, okay. all right.
So if rezoned, this area could only be used for what's presently
Mhm.
or permitted in the future in the B1 zone. And as Bob will show you in addition, the 50-foot buffer between the commercial and residential zone would be maintained within the rezoned parcel. Bob will show you that in a little better detail.
Does Bob, do you have topography you'll show?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
The commission may remember, there was a temporary special use permit that had been issued for 2470, maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where there was material that was excavated. And so I think it was maybe about a year ago that the bond was just recently released because that operation has since stopped and the slopes have been regraded, seeded, and Mr. Ballard wanted that operation to cease for, I think, a variety of reasons, from what I remember. It was just disruptive and, you know, he had other ideas for what he'd like to do with the land, and it was zoned residential, so.
Okay, good evening. For the record, my name is Bob Cristello, licensed professional engineer and land surveyor. And I wanted to talk about areas, if you could bear with me for a minute. So I'm back to sheet 103, and already talked about 2450, which is this parcel here. And that parcel does have about 155 feet of frontage. Here's Foxton Road, here's County Road, north is up. So it has about 155 feet of frontage.
Sorry,
It
can
has-
you stand on the other side? Yeah, because the clock's really sitting. Sorry.
I apologize, it's such an odd arrangement here, in trying to address you guys and the commission,
Didn't mean to interrupt you, but we can
and
sit.
having me see with my reading glasses, because I broke my other glasses. So, 2450, 155 feet of frontage on Foxton Road. It has a depth from Foxton Road right away to the rear of about 1,250 feet. And this width in the center is about 300 feet, so it's a way, 360 feet, a way to kind of get a size of that parcel. It is an 8.2 acre parcel of land, and my map shows the current zone line, and this is B1, R40, so that line extends with this big dash, and is kind of oddly shaped and juts in here and then goes out along here, there again, Foxton Road. So I've hatched the area that's currently B1 zone. Of the 8.2 acres, about 5 acres right now is B1, which is the front hatch piece, and the rear 3.2 acres is R40. Parcel 2470, which Bernie also talked about, is the one located to the north and to the east, is somewhat unique, if I may say. It has a driveway right away over here, and it is about 730 feet in this dimension and about 480 feet in that dimension. And that parcel's also about 8.9 acres. So they're pretty similar in size, a little different in shape, but the two of them together is a little bit over 16 acres. It is entirely zoned R40. The second map that my office put together was a map to try to clearly indicate where the extension of the B1 zone was. And I'll briefly just say that, you know, you have on the first piece, 2450, you have the rear part, and that rear part is about 3.2 acres. You have this odd line back here, which is a little bit less than 0.2 acres. And then the piece which had the special use permit before, and that's this dashed line that is being proposed as a B1 zone, is about 3.65 acres. So hopefully that helps to add some scale and areas to the proposal. The last map that I prepared was a little bit more of a detailed map. And this map shows improvements on the site. For instance, there again, I have orientated Fox and Road down here. The driveway access to the parcel is shown on the westerly side, as you had asked. And it comes right into the center of the parcel, and basically it's all gravel all the way up to the rear property line and around. And it has been used that way historically for many, many years, and I had gone back and looked at some of the aerials. But it has several components to it. It has a 3-bedroom home up in front on the right-hand side. It has a garage that is about, I think it's about 4,200 square feet in size. It also has another building right here that's about 12,500 square feet in size. It's a very nice parcel of land, topography-wise. At Foxen Road, the elevation is 320. This driveway slopes down very shallow. It's a gentle slope into a very, very flat section of the property. And that elevation is about 110. So once you get into the site, and even from Foxen Road, it's really a nice parcel from an engineering perspective to develop in a business zone, because grade changes will be minimal at Bassett there. The adjacent parcel, which is 2470, is unique, and we're proposing the zone line here. And I've indicated, see that yellow line right there? That's the toe slope. I went out there and I surveyed the bottom elevation of what was excavated. And really it was a bench by the prior developer who went in here and benched this out. It's a little bit higher than this. It slopes up to, when you go there, it looks level. But as I remember, it slopes up about 5-6 feet here, but is relatively level to the eye. And it really is a nice feature for this site, because what you have, and I've indicated from the zone line, slopes from the top of the disturbed bank down to the toe. For instance, it's 21%, 40%, 27%, 28%, 38%, 29%, with the surrounding topography much higher. The bottom elevation here is about 115, and I've indicated on the map a 150, a 140, 140, a 152, and the bank over here is about the 140. So there's a break in topography of some 25 feet on the average. So this is set down, it's hidden, this is wooded, there's a wetland component over here, but this is a natural extension of this parcel into here, and what I'm representing is the topography creates a nice bowl shape that would hide any development within that area if you choose to rezone that at B1 zone. Lastly, my map, on your map, I took the liberty of taking this piece because I was trying to scale 1:60, putting it on one sheet. I didn't want to shrink it down anymore because you can't read it at all, but that piece is up here, and this is between the two properties. I've indicated in the blue areas which, from my research, has been used, and pre-existing use of that area by this owner and the prior owners, the Barones, I believe, for very, very similar uses for trucks, for equipment, for other things that have been going on. I've been in business since 1984. I have, over my time period, I think one of my earlier jobs in 1985 was to do a site plan for Mr. Barone, which added on to this building. And at the time, I do remember it being on site. I've worked with the planning and zoning before, but clearly this has always been that way. So that kind of sums up my part of it, and I'm here to answer any questions. And I guess at this point, I'll turn it back over to
quick question. Looking at the triangle, the extra part on top of your map there,
Yes, right here.
the map I have shows activity continuing beyond that.
Right, beyond this property.
Right.
Correct.
Why wouldn't, is that a business? Is that?
That's a residential, R40 zone that is, see, all this land at one time was owned by the Barones. And Scott is here and he can,
A picture's worth 1,000 words.
yeah.
Come here and let me point out, this part right in here, it looks like a congested area.
Yeah.
Is that a business of some kind? Moving, this continuing up?
That is there, their clearing is there. I can't tell you if that's a recent photo or not, but there is activity in that area.
So that's from 2013.
What's that?
I have a photo from a few days
Well,
ago.
let's bring that around.
That, just to quickly answer the question, that GIS image is from 2013.
So it's not 20 years old, it's.
Right.
Okay.
9/29/2016?
That's when I printed it.
That's the stamp, yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. Does that still exist?
I believe it does.
And he only
Scott
acts,
hasn't made any additional tree cutting at all there since, Scott, you need to really just peek at this photograph. Sure. Because Scott's on the site
Just to
day
the
to
north.
day.
This portion here, is that another business beyond this?
this
That
additional
right
part
there,
here.
there's some wood and maybe some trucks of some degree, but that's an extension of this that's always been there. But the land is all commonly owned.
It's R40 though.
It's R40 though.
Right. And the only access to that is through the
Yes.
B1 zone, or this R40?
So this, I don't know if you would consider this a business.
It's a storage area.
There's some stuff there, yes.
Yeah, storage.
I was just
Similar to
wondering
this
why
area
you
here.
wouldn't just, move the line a little bit.
They don't own the property.
They do. They own
do.
both.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We own, all the surrounding properties are owned commonly.
This also cleared over here? This-
No, that was the neighbor's property. That's
Oh.
Mr. Barone's father's property years ago.
Okay.
There's, this line here goes back to back 35,
Mm-hmm.
which is all part of this, and then we own all behind the garage as well.
Okay. So that's, you don't own this piece, you own back, all right. I think you said you owned up to CL, right?
Yes, we own all the way up to behind Seal,
Mhm.
and then all the way in the back to the Guilford Town line. And then up to the front to Route 80, there's 24, 50, and 70. Just shy of 50 acres.
Okay.
Any further questions for us?
The elevation on the area around that you want to maintain is R40. You said it was a 25-foot grade increase from the cutout to the back of that.
Yeah,
Property.
the grade, what I represented is the grade around it. The lower elevation is about 115, and the grade goes from existing 140, 150, 152, 140. So it's 115, and the grade around it is average 140 to 150.
Okay.
And the buffer, I think you mentioned before, is it's within the outline.
The 50-foot setback
Yep.
is this light line here. And you
Which
can
is
see
in-
that
yep.
the toe is well within side. And then property line dimensions, from the proposed zone line, 220 feet, this is 100 feet, and this is 140 feet. So it's kind of, even from the top of the bank being proposed, it's a long way away.
I do. Hold on one second.
That's all we have at this time.
Okay, so right now, we do have a few referrals.
I received an email from Otto Schaefer, who's with the North Branford Land Conservation Trust. The land trust owns a parcel of land that is on Sea Hill Road and is within 500 feet of the proposed zone change. It says, Dear Ms. Duquesne, the Board of Directors of the North Branford Land Conservation Trust discussed the proposed zone change at its meeting last night after finding that the zone change as presented is not expected to have an adverse impact on NBLCT property, which is within 500 feet of the subject property. I was directed to notify you of this outcome. Thank you for considering the comment provided by NBLCT. Sincerely, Otto Schaefer, Secretary. The zoning officer, Tom Hogarty, had a memo to me saying that this was looking at the application. The map should show the required 50-foot setback, which it does, from the R40 zone. For the 2470 Foxen Road parcel, the slope of the property naturally limits any use closer than 50 feet, with the exception of the easternmost area where the slope extends only about 35 feet from the edge of the proposed R40 district. The other parcel at 2450 currently uses the rearmost section for the storage of equipment and vehicles right up to the proposed R40 district. That appears to be a pre-existing and non-conforming use of the property. That use prior to zoning should be verified by the applicant. So that was what I had passed out. And as you'll note, this affidavit goes through everything. This is signed by Scott Ballard, and you know, again, talks about when he first started working on the property, how it was used by the prior owner, Jackie Barone. And the one thing we don't have is from the prior owner of Jackie Barone saying that he can confirm that this is how it was used going back to 1961. So that's just something that the commission should consider.
Are there any aerial photos going back that could be viewed?
Right. So those were the referrals that I had.
Anything else?
That's all. I think, yeah, we'll wait to hear from the public. I have received several calls, but, you know, I think that most people are here, so we'll just let the public make their comments.
At this time, well, we could put that back into the middle if you'd like. But at this time, if you'd like to comment on this proposal, please direct those comments to the commission. And if Attorney Pellegrino would just like to note those, and then you can rebut it at the very end. All right.
And then just state your name.
Yep, please. Yep, just come up to the microphone, your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name's Dan Walsh. I live at 15 Basswood Drive. And I have a couple of concerns and a couple of questions. My first concern is my understanding, can I approach the map?
Absolutely.
My understanding is that part of the reason for making this a B1 property is because it's had a historic non-conforming use. And part of it is to make that into a conforming use, okay, by making it a B1 property, instead of by restricting the activity that's going on there and bringing it into conformation with our floating property. And my understanding is the reason is because of historical use that occurred back before the ordinances were in place, and that, I guess, I call it grandfathering in. I don't know if that's an appropriate term.
That's
But,
appropriate.
I certainly would respect that, because anytime ordinances would change, you can't shut people down for a while. And I think both lawyer Pellegrino and engineer Cristola have talked about the history that going back to 1961, and that's what the story was. My question to the commission is, what if that story is wrong?
I'm sorry?
What if that story is wrong? What if the historic use of the majority of that property wasn't used for trucking or storing trucks until about 3 or 4 years ago? What if the historic use of that was for something that was in line with R40 residential property? What does that do as far as bringing this into confirmation?
That was something we'd have to take in consideration.
Okay.
Yep.
I do have Google Archive photographs that show that the majority of that property up in here was used for horse paddocks with fencing around it as recently as 2012. I have those maps with me. I was back on that property in 2003 and 2004. My daughter was a horseback rider. We asked Jack, the previous owner, if we could use the trails, and he allowed us to do that through the woods. We also were talking about possibly renting those large paddocks. And he had large paddocks. There were trucks going over this line. I think they went up to about here, but that was it. All this area in here was horse paddocks with pasture.
Do you have those photos?
Yes, I do.
Can we have them?
Yes.
Can we have them in the record as an exhibit, please? Are they all different or all the same?
They're all in order.
Okay.
It starts with 2013,
Okay.
14, and then 2013, and then starting in 2012, you can see the horse.
All right, so I'm just gonna write on the back of these. So this is 2012?
They are dated.
Oh, they are on the bottom?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm familiar with Google.
All right.
The top isn't quite correct with the dates, because the dates on the bottom are
Okay.
accurate, some of them are.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops,
You can see the
7,
large horse paddocks right in there.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? Okay. So these exhibits 1 through 13 or 8 through whatever.
Do you want to pass these down? Do you want to look at them?
Oh, yeah, we just do the next pack, okay. All right.
My concern with the property, even if it did not have a previous use, is once you switch it to B1, it may be Mr. Ballard's intention just to use it for parking trucks and moving trucks in and out, but it does open it to other operations. You can run a lumber yard out of that. You can be doing sawing things. That may not be his intention. That may be the intention of a future owner. I'm on Basswood Drive, set further from his property, but I know there are neighbors on Sea Hill who have received a lot more noise from the trucking than I have. Okay, I respect that that sand area was used almost as a shooting gallery for years under the previous owner. I respect a lot that Mr. Ballard's done a lot to bring that down, to not only not condone it, but to try to stop that. So there have been a lot of issues with noise in the area. Of all the B zones, my understanding is the B1 zone is the only one that allows freight trucking to occur out of the B zones. The only other zone that does is an I-2. And that B1 zone is right now very close to properties that are over here on Sea Hill. We receive a lot of noise from that trucking. Right now, the horse paddocks were right up in here. The trucks have been moved in 2013 from back here right up to there. I don't think Mr. Ballard did the clearing. I think it happened just before he bought the property by the previous owner. I do believe that he rented property for a number of years before that. Okay, I also think that due diligence should have shown, if I could find these photos in half an hour doing Google archives, that engineers and lawyers would have been able to do a similar thing. As far as this property here, I do like the idea that they're looking to put in a buffer zone. I know Mr. Ballard, he has a trucking industry. I respect that he started off with a one-truck trucking industry, and he's done a lot to make it a much bigger trucking industry. I also see that that trucking industry, in my opinion, is the predominant use of that B1 area. My understanding is it's only an acceptable use if it is an accessory or subordinate use of a B1 area. It can only be the primary one if it's in a I-2 zone. That's my understanding. So I would question putting in B1, making that B1, and making that B1 if the predominant business that's going to be conducted is trucking. It should only be a subordinate use. I think this B1, I would think obviously the trucking industry is the predominant use of the area, which I don't think is in confirmation now, but a B1 property should be. That because Jack probably did the same thing, I think his grandfather did, because that's already B1, and the trucking has gone in this area. As I say, the photos I produced will show that the trucks went a little over that line up to here, but the horse paddocks and pasture And when I was back on the property, when we were talking with Jack about possibly, that was in 2003, 2004, and they were in a state of disrepair. So they must have gone back, there were no horses there then, they must have gone back before. The photographs I have show the paddocks and the fencing from 2005 to 2012. As a concerned resident, again, I really respect the trucking industry. It happens to be a rather noisy industry. And I would like to see that if someone wishes to expand an industry, that they look to purchase I-2 property or large stretches of B1 property where that type of business can take place without adversely affecting the residents. Okay, but the property's noisy now. If it's expanded back where this becomes full B1 use, and this is now B1 use, it's simply eating B1 properties back further and further. We all expect that the Route 80 corridor is for a lot of business and a lot of commerce. Okay, many of us that live up in the complex of Sea Hill, Basswood, Butternut, we purchased properties far back from that Route 80 corridor. I grew up as a child, and we had a grandfathered-in lumberyard in our backyard. When it came time for me to buy a house, I didn't want to be near a noisy industry. Okay, frankly, if any of us had purchased a house on the Route 80 corridor where we probably could have got something comparable to what we have land-wise and house-wise for 60 to 70% of what we paid. Okay, because we wanted to be in a nice residential area where it's quiet and there's not a lot of noise. It's difficult with the trucking industry to not have a lot of noise. I respect the business he has. I don't think a B1 property is a proper thing to be pushing further and further into where there are residential lands here. He does own a lot of property. It's R40. But there's a move now to make some of this into B1. Will there be future moves to make more of it into B1? Is it going to become a major trucking industry in our backyard? Frankly, his website says he's growing and he wants to become one of the major trucking industries in the Northeast. If you look on his website, and the main hub is in Branford with a few satellite hubs. And he did grow it from one truck originally to now the website says 20 trucks with 40 trailers and all other kinds of special equipment they can do. To me, it sounds like that is the major industry that's going on in use. It's not a subordinate or accessory use. That's not the case. I don't see, if it isn't, I would say, what is the major use of that current B1 property? What will be the major use of this, if not trucking? What will be the major use of that? And as a major use, I don't believe, according to the chart I looked at, that that's acceptable for a B1 property if that's the major use. Those are my concerns. Frankly, if it was very quiet and it didn't have any disturbance to the community, I wouldn't raise any concern about it. But there have been concerns about the amount of noise, the trucks coming in and out at early in the morning, at other times. And it's going to get closer and closer to the residential areas. I'm concerned about property values. I'm concerned about peace of mind as we enter into the later years of our lives. And I frankly think it's up to the planning and zoning that we respect and we feel is responsible to protect our interests and say what is the overall best interest of the North Branford residents living in this area. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Your name and address, please.
I'm Scott Soloway, 6 County Road. I live right next door to the eastern property that has the carve-out. I was here for the variance that they allowed the land to be stripped. It was noisy, it was dusty, it was dirty. There was no intent at that time to change this to B1. And at this point, getting up at 2:30 in the morning, every morning listening to trucks going in and out is unacceptable. This is a residential neighborhood. This is a residential zone. We purchased our house in 1998. I would agree with the fact that at that time there was a horse ring in the back of the other property. I walked that property routinely. I went over it with Jackie Barone actually at one point because I was considering buying this second piece just as a buffer. And now we are looking at a split zone next to us, right adjacent to our property with trucks, not a residential area. And I think you'll hear from the other residents, it's noisy, 2:30 every morning, trucks starting up, going in and out. Jacob's exhaust brakes coming down the road to stop so they can turn in, not residents.
I'm Dave Elliston from 250 Sea Hill Road. I'll show you the map here. My house is right here, from where the zone is. 2 weeks ago, 11:45 or 12:45 in the morning, impact guns going off. I had 2 children. Their bedrooms face this property. They got woken up by impact guns and the trailer smashed in the back of the trucks, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm all the way up here. There's a tree buffer. As soon as the leaves fall down, there's that much more noise that comes through. I'm not against your company, but there's gotta be a point where I can't have my kids awake at night, especially with impact guns. I was in my house with the windows closed, with the air conditioning running. I could hear the impact guns. This was 2 weeks ago, maybe 2 and a half. It was 12:45 in the morning.
Can you direct your comments to us, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But this is where I am, and I know that there's people across the street that have children that have the same thing. And I know that Basswood is up here, and I know that there's some sort of buffer here, but there's nothing here where it comes towards us. So in the wintertime, because they're stopped here, they bring us back, that's even that much closer to the properties for the residential people that are in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Chris, she was right behind you. Sorry. Oh.
Hello, I'm not good with.
Oh, excuse me, your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jane Ash, I live on 2478 Oxon Road. I'm not good with maps, and I don't know all the legalities. I just have 3 very basic concerns. I moved into North Branford and helped my brother when he became ill, passed away a year ago in July. In process of helping him, I took the mortgage out on the house. And it was at that time when everything was happening bad with mortgages, but it was medically necessary. We did what we had to do. My 3 concerns, my first concern is that what's this gonna do to property values? I've already taken a major hit with this mortgage. My brother passed away, but I have the responsibility of paying that mortgage. If I go to sell the house, as it is right now, I'm not sure if I'd be able to pay off the mortgage even if I sold the house. So property values are a big concern for me. Second thing I'm concerned about is the wildlife. I'm a little surprised that the conservation of the land gave the okay to this, because I've lived now 10 years at that residence. When I first moved in, we had all kinds of wildlife in our backyard, all kinds of birds. And when they started excavating or digging out that property in the back, we lost all kinds of species. The goldfishes went away. I could go on and on, the number of species that don't come back now that were there, because their nesting and their habitat is gone. So I'm very surprised that the conservation of the land said this would be an okay thing.
No, they didn't say it'd be okay, it said it wouldn't have an impact on their existing properties. So they didn't weigh in on actually.
No, she's talking about the excavating that was already done.
I'm sorry?
The excavating that was.
No, the comment that she's making, the land trust was based on their properties that they own in the area, because they do have one property that's within 500 feet. They were just commenting on their property themselves. Okay, so it had nothing to do with the scope of the project. They did not weigh in on that.
And my third thing, which I think has already been addressed, is the noise. And we do hear the trucks going in and out at night with the windows closed, at all different hours of the night. And I know that that was a concern, and my brother, when he owned the property, way back when, they had all kinds of, I think think when Jackie Barone owned it, they had problems.
She has the floor. If you want to speak, you can after her.
So anyhow, those are my three concerns. Now, like I said, I don't know all the legalities, I can't show you things on the map, on the maps, but, those are my concerns.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
Yeah, hi, Chris Kranick. Excuse me. 49 Cortlandt Drive. I don't think this is the right location for this type of activity. If there's, I'm hearing there's already a lot of noise at this location. And I did go on the website, and again, I don't have anything against the trucking industry either. But if he's grown from 2 trucks to 20 trucks and 40 trailers, we're exponentially increasing the noise for the residents in this part of town. And I don't know all the uses that are in a B1, but I'd like to hear about some of them because that opens us up to any type of different use. And I really think that we need to protect the rights of the citizens along this corridor to a peaceful enjoyment of their property. If there were to be 20 trucks pulling into there, given what we've just heard on the noise situation, we just had a Midway Trucking put in a diesel refueling, and if the propane facility goes through, there'll be trucks coming out of there. We're going to turn this whole area of town with Cherry Hill Construction into, a trucking zone. And you need to take into the consideration of, and I bought behind Sea Hill Road because it was a quiet place. And that's why all the people in this part of town are living there. It's a really big concern. And this bit with the plan of conservation and development, that's up for review next year. And there's a lot of people along this Route 80 corridor that aren't looking to, blow up the Route 80 into heavy industrial use. So there's going to be quite a big pushback on all this type of development. It's very noisy. So, thank you.
Hi, Adam Malillo, 225 Sea Hill Road. I live in this area here. And I have a 3-year-old. We bought this house because we thought it would be a quiet neighborhood. We didn't expect to be woken up at 12:30, 3:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's just this week. There's also, from this building, I think it's in the corner, there's a light that shines right into my kitchen. It's not what I expected. I know it's just a complaint, but it's a business that's going on all the time. It's distracting to my family. It wakes us up. I think that having small businesses in North Branford is a great thing, but this is really noisy. And I guess I'm just repeating what's been said already, but it's very troubling. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Yeah, I'll speak. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph O'Connor. I live on the intersection of Sea Hill, Driftwood, and Basswood. I've been a resident of North Branford for 9 years, and I've lived on Sea Hill for the last 4 years. I don't hear too much noise. Maybe I'm a little farther away. I myself, I'm in the trucking industry for 19 years. I don't really hear too much noise from where I am, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for me or my family. I have a 6-year-old daughter and my wife. When the leaves are off the trees, you do hear a little bit of extra noise that comes through when the leaves are gone in the wintertime, but aside from that, I don't see a big issue with it. I have more of an issue with Tilcon being as noisy as they are.
Where are you on the?
I am I am on the corner of Sea Hill, Driftwood, and Basswood, so I believe it's somewhere right around here up in the.
A little bit further up north?
A little further up
Off the
the road.
map, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I don't see a real big difference with the traffic that's not already on Foxen Road to begin with. It's never been a problem for me, and me being in the trucking industry, I understand what trucks are and how they work. It's, you know, it's something that could be dealt with. The noises at nighttime, the hours could be changed, you know, there can be arrangements made, but as far as that, it's not interfering with my family, and I don't have an issue with it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else like to speak?
Just a quick comment, Chris, 49 Cortlandt Drive. I would ask that on the notification, the 3 people who didn't pick up, that an extra effort is made to all the 500-foot abutters. And I'd also ask that this public hearing remain open, because as Dan, the gentleman Dan there referred to, the type of use that was occurring with the pictures, I think people should have a chance to review that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was,
Thank you.
we can do that, we can have that request.
I'd just like to say one more thing.
Yep.
We do.
Just give you, I know, just.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
yeah.
Scott Soloway again at 6 County in the abutting property. This is a well and septic area once you get over the small bridge. And so this is a B1 zone that's being created or expanded in an area that is well and septic. This is not part of the city sewer and the city water system that is prior to it, that butts into the B1 before it.
Anybody else?
Kind of beating around the bush.
Oh, I just need your name and address first.
Todd Ash, 2478.
Okay.
That's obviously right in the front of where they want to do all this.
Mhm.
And the noise is crazy at night. It's ridiculous. In and out all night. I probably get woken up 6 times a night. Every night.
Please.
Ian Walsh, and I'll just make one more statement about noise, and that's North Branford has very clear noise ordinances. In a residential area, 45 decibels at night, 55 in the day. If you look at what kinds of sounds are 45 decibels, I'm probably at about 30 decibels right now. Certain things are restricted, like traffic on a public roadway, which would go over 45 decibels at night, but not on a private drive, not on a private property. The only exception for types of equipment are if you're actually building or tearing down, and also farming equipment itself is exempted, probably because of the historic rural uses of our town, which was principally a rural residential area. Many of us in North Branford, that's why we came here and that's why we're here. So even on that existing B1 property, I would ask that I believe it is planning and zoning that does have the equipment and does need to monitor what those levels are. Because at a previous hearing for a special use permit a couple years ago, there were a lot of complaints at the hearing about noise. You're hearing that tonight. And one thing I will say, on the decibel scale, it's a logarithmic scale, not a linear scale. And the way it works is when you go from 45 to 55 decibels, you go up 10 decibels on the scale, it's twice as noisy. If you're around a tractor trailer only about 6 feet away, you're talking 80 decibels. Okay? Now it does attenuate certainly as you go further. And when there's a buffer, it goes further. It attenuates or drops off much, much quicker. Okay, so if you have a buffer of trees, that does help. One thing that I think exasperated the situation as well was the previous owner logged a lot of the area just before Mr. Ballard purchased it. That exasperated the area and brought in even more noise. So buffers do help, but to have a B1 zone with a very loud industry, whether it would be running a lumber mill with sawmills going on, or a high-use trucking industry, those areas need a very large buffer area to be able to meet the ordinances, which if you look at them, there's like 2 or 3 pages of ordinances in North Branford as to the sound pollution and limitations. And I just say that I'd ask that
the commission look at that and the appropriateness of having B1 property directly adjacent to R40 residential, okay, where it's being used for a high-intensity, noisy business. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Attorney Pellegrino, would you like to, hang on 1 second.
My name is Jim Carpenter. I live on 226 Sea Hill Road. I'm actually on the other side.
Sea Hill's to your left. Yeah.
I'm just south of Downhill from the bend. But you know, Adam was just up here. He's been here about a year, and he's got the 3-year-old. I'm on the other side. Unfortunately, his house and he's kind of kitty corner, and then the lady across the street, they are a buffer for me. And I've been in that house since, for about 33 years. And just slowly but surely every year, sometimes I get the fumes from the trucks, which that isn't all the time, but clearly the noise they're talking about, it's true, and I feel bad. Like I said, the people in front of me protect me, but more trucks, it's just going to be worse. So it's not like it was even 10 years ago, and it'll be tough, I think, for people in the future to want to move and live on that street. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Attorney Pellegrino, I don't rebut.
And just a few comments, and if your intent is going to be to hold the application open, as it
Yes.
sounds like it is, you know, we'd like the opportunity to review the photos, which we haven't seen, and we'll.
Absolutely.
And we have our own photos that we'll bring to provide further information to you after we've had a chance to see it. But a couple of comments before you table, if that's your intent, until the next meeting. Perhaps a misconception that the application seeks to expand the trucking business, and that's not true. The existing trucking business, which has been conducted on this site for 40 years, and the operations there is really not the issue. We're not here to rezone, to expand the trucking operations. In fact, the B1 zone that we're seeking to create would not be eligible for trucking in the B1 zone. So it's not to rezone that area to expand the trucking business. That area would only be available for uses presently permitted in the B1 zone, of which trucking is not. The trucking operation existed before most of the neighboring developments were built. That use has been there for some 60 years, and it's legally non-conforming. But the new zone, it's legally non-conforming whether or not you rezone the top, by the way. But the new zone, where the trucking operation does not exist, would only permit the uses permitted in the B1 zone, which is not trucking. And as you know, any uses that would be proposed in that area would have to come before this commission. That's number one.
Well, let me ask you a question then. On the north section, then why would you why not just leave it as an R40?
For the reasons I've already mentioned. I think it makes sense that that area be zoned B1. The plan of development seems to agree with that. And as I mentioned earlier, there are or could be B1 uses that might replace existing non-conforming uses in that zone, which may be beneficial. I think it could also lead to future redevelopment of the 2450 site in a more orderly fashion. So, we'd like the opportunity to bring, to review those photos, bring in our own photos, we'll address those issues. And with that, I guess,
Okay.
until you adjourn.
Can we have a little bit of discussion possibly? I just want to provide,
please.
as the staff planner, obviously, I've talked with the applicant leading up to this, and I wanted to just give the input based on the comments that were made and our zoning regulations. So, as was mentioned, this, as you know, is just for a zone change, so they can't specify, nor can we require them to say what their intended use is. That being said, it cannot be trucking, because there's the requirement that it be 500 feet from a residential district. Yes, it's true that one exists today, but it's pre-existing non-conforming. The question of, looking at these photos, that I haven't, reviewed all of these, but it does look like there was some kind of a paddock. Where the property line is in relationship to that, I'm not exactly sure. But just the point being that, in talking with the applicant and looking at this and reviewing it, the plan of conservation does say to extend or support the idea of extending the B1 zone to the north. Again, that's to support a B1 permitted use, of which trucking is not one, because it would not comply with the requirement of being 500 feet from a residential district.
Just one quick question,
Even-
right?
even though-
Sorry, go ahead. Just one quick question with that. The trucking business itself is grandfathered in, but the trucking business can't go into the proposed B1. Can they stretch it insofar as, could it be a storage area for tractor trailers? Could it be a parking lot for tractor trailers? Could it be a warehouse of tractor trailers transferring freight in a B1?
Well, we have to look at our.
Yeah, I
No,
think
that
we
is-
have
We have to,
to.
I think,
Should be like
yeah,
an
I think we gotta look,
accessory-
I think you gotta look at, when
accessory
you,
to the truck.
you have to look at everything that could possibly go into a B1.
That was my
That's what I'm saying,
question.
you have to look at everything, because that's what's gonna happen here. Now,
So-
like, as Carrie mentioned, though, trucking itself is not, would not be a permitted use there, but there are other items that you probably should review as we go through this process.
Exactly, that's
So
why we asked the
to
question.
answer the question though, so it says warehousing and wholesale business and commercial storage to the extent permitted in a district, this is all in a B1, allowed per site plan review, shall not occupy more than 2,500 square feet. That doesn't talk about tractor trailers though, and storing something in a tractor trailer, I think would be considered warehousing and wholesale commercial storage. I don't think that would fit into that category. I think it would still be accessory to trucking. And again, so it says here, freight and materials trucking businesses, terminals and bus maintenance terminals, when accessory and subordinate to, as Mr. Walsh pointed out, to another permitted use on the same lot, is permitted in a district, shall not be located less than 500 feet from a residence district, which again, this is not, especially if it extends to the north. But uses that are allowed, so as Harry was mentioning, like with any zone change, we do have to consider that if it is changed to a B1 zone, anything that's allowed in a B1 zone would be permitted, whether it's through site plan or special use permit. So that includes things like restaurants, retail, commercial uses. Someone had mentioned lumber and building material yards, building contractor yards, that is allowed. Painting establishments and binderies, printing establishments, auto body shops, research laboratories, manufacturing, processing, or assembling of goods when accessory and subordinate to another permitted use on the same lot, and when located within an enclosed building. Retail sale and distribution of heating fuel. There's even a laundry, cleaning and dyeing plants, that's through a special use permit though. It's really, the site plan application, which raises concerns by residents, I would say, because there's not an opportunity for public comment. There's not a public hearing that's required. So, you know, again, those are this, you know, lumber and building material yards, and I think it may be, you know, a fair question of the applicant just to get an idea of what the larger plan is, although he's not required to show on a plan what he's proposing to do. I just wanted to reiterate that trucking is not a permitted use. It would not be allowed. So the current use, what's going on today, could be intensified under the law, but it could not be expanded.
So not even into the, I just wanted to clarify, not even to that northern piece, because it's it's being used now, so it's non-conforming now, right?
Right.
So if it was zone B1,
Well,
does
it-
that say that they can't use that as trucking?
No.
He
Because they're
can
using it
use the
now?
areas that he's using now.
Because I mean, so that.
Yes.
Because now,
Northern-
that
that
would be-
northern part could be.
Yes,
Because-
because
Not
it's
the-
used now.
not the
Right.
eastern.
Correct.
But
Just
the only
wanna
thing,
clarify.
so it would be, that would be conforming, but it was grandfathered in.
No,
So,
100%.
so, I mean, if we didn't make any changes on that, if we left it exactly the way it was and let's say we didn't grant B1 to that, they could still continue what they're doing there today. I mean, as long as it's, as long as it was grandfathered in.
Right, but
So
they can't,
so I'm saying that-
they can't expand.
Well, they can, I
Correct.
mean, they can add on their property if they want to.
No, the use cannot be expanded, though.
Oh, no, right, but I'm just saying,
Right.
if they brought in a couple more trucks, they still can on that.
We
It's-
still are absolutely clear that that was non-conforming prior to a certain
We're gonna
year.
do some
Right.
investigation.
I know, I'm just saying.
Right,
so.
right.
I got a question for you, though. You said it's a grandfathered in non-conforming use. Existing trucking company was there. But it can't be expanded, so now, how big was the company before? How big is it now? How big is it you wanna grow it?
Right, well, that's where the
Expanded area.
research, that's where the research comes in as far as the first two questions, which were how big was it at the time of zoning or prior to zoning?
So like, say if the company had 3 trucks, they can't grow more than 3?
This is where it's more of the footprint, not the number of trucks, because
Okay.
a business can intensify, but they can't expand.
Is it difference?
Yeah, so let's say.
Expanding is taking more area over, intensifying is just intensifying that.
Let's say they had two, let's just.
Finite area already
Yeah.
exists.
For an example, let's say there was 2 acres,
Mhm.
okay, and it was not conforming. And within those 2 acres, whatever operation was happening,
Mhm.
and say there was 10 of whatevers, as long as they didn't expand past the 2 acres, they can put 40 whatevers in there.
Okay.
I mean, they can, as long as it stays within the footprint. That's one thing that
Yeah.
we'll have to take a
Or
look at.
if you
but-
think of like a bakery, you
Yeah.
can start out making a loaf of bread, but then if you're making 20
Yep.
loaves, you're just
They're
intensifying,
not expanding
not
the property,
expanding.
they can expand the
Right.
business on
Right.
the same property.
Right.
Is there a limitation to hours of operation on B1 property?
No, it would be based on site plan review,
Okay.
and
Right.
there's nothing for this property.
Right.
Okay, but one question came up about light shining off the property into neighbors' houses. That would have to be addressed.
So that we could work with typically, we try and work with the property owner to say, okay, they may not even be aware that that's an issue. And, our light ordinance says that the light needs to be shining down, not up. So I feel like that's something that we could work with them on.
But that's a good point to be made, is this is a zone change, but there won't be any site plan. It's not like a
Correct. Right.
text amendment or something where you come back with a site plan that spurs
No,
a
it's
review.
a
This
zone.
is,
But
Well,
going-
except for if, on the other property, on 2470, if that goes from residential
Yes,
to
right.
B1, then if anything that happens there would either have to come back as a site plan or a special use.
Right.
One or the other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they couldn't just go in and start doing something to that. That might be a misconception, but anything that happens on 2470, if it was to go to B1, would have to come back in front of us. It wouldn't be able to just expand on its own nature.
And it's possible that a project, if there was a large reconstruction project on 2450, that it may have to come back before this commission too, if there's a change of use that triggers more parking or traffic flow, something like that. The other thing just to think about from like a larger planning perspective is just the rezoning of this. and the potential for change down the road from trucking to something else that's permitted in a B1 zone. I understand and sympathize with the, the noise from the trucking. It just seems like this may be an opportunity, again, to change and go to something else.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people complaining about the noise and a decibel rating, and is it the building inspector or?
The zoning
or
officer.
The zoning officer.
Right. So we do have a noise meter. We
Yes.
have not done readings since I've been here on that property.
So what is the official, do they have to, aside from this, I'm going off on a tangent. People are complaining about noise. Do they have to put a formal complaint into
Yes.
your office?
Yes.
Then you would go out with the equipment.
Correct. And the way that it works, which is how it was explained, was exactly right. So the town ordinance, not zoning, but the town code actually speaks to, if you're on a residential property, what the decibel level is allowed to be, or what it cannot exceed, coming from a industrial parcel or a business parcel. So you take the reading standing on the parcel of what it should be, if that makes sense. And then there's certain, it differs between daytime and nighttime.
I know, when it came up back on another incident, the noise, had to be sent out recalibrated, right?
Mhm.
That's been done.
Mm-hmm.
And
It should be
if
good,
it can
yeah.
just be done, I know before, going back years, when there was a lot of construction going on, and trucks were going up and down Notch Hill and all hours of the night, that they said they can only do it during the day.
Well, we can
Well-
ask the police to do it, the
There
zoning
again,
officer and I
there
are
was
only
somebody
here.
not trained on the police department to use it
Well,
properly or something.
we can
was
ask the
that.
question.
Yeah.
But, you're right, the zoning officer and I are not here typically at night, so we would have to ask a police officer to do it in our place.
Could it be something that's set up and does a 24-hour monitoring that's left alone?
I don't think our piece of equipment does that, but we could.
But that could be up to the enforcement officer, so. The public hearing for this will be continued to our next meeting, which is, October 20th?
Yes.
October 20th. So this will be continued open. We can, Attorney Pellegrino, if you could submit your pictures that you have, like, within the next maybe 4 days or 5 days, so we can all get them prior to, advance the meeting. And I'm sure if you contact the office, they can make you a set of copies of what was entered in as exhibit.
There was also a mention about the 3 residents who were not notified. Do you have any request about how to handle that?
I mean,
it was sent
So
to them.
it
they
was
just
sent
did
to
not pick it
them.
up.
Right.
They have the choice of not picking it up.
Right, I mean.
The post office sends 3 cards in their mailbox before the letter's being sent back.
Right.
And
I mean, if they don't want to.
if they choose not to, that's their choice.
Right.
The other question I have is, we have.
I mean, I just think it's a set of bad precedents. I mean, so anyone we get back, we're gonna have to go knock, somebody will have to go knock on the door. I mean,
I think certainly
I mean,
the
Chris,
community can go
Chris, if you
back.
wanna know who it is, we can, and you wanna try to contact them, but. Yeah.
Vacation during this.
Well, no, but they still would have the notifications. They would still have the green cards.
Yes.
If they're away on vacation.
Yeah, but the green cards stay in the mailbox. The post office goes and puts them into the mailbox.
If they're on vacation for 2 weeks and there's a green in Florida, and there's a green thing in their mailbox, how do they know that this is being proposed?
Well, they know there was something at the post office up until a point. I think it tells you where it came from as well. I'm not positive what the
He's
Right,
return.
they
saying,
get a notice
he's
saying
saying
that
if they're
they-
out of town, not picking their mail up, how do
But
they
the
know?
next meeting's the 20th. If
Right.
they're here, if they return within the next 14 days, they'll get it in their mailbox,
They still have the green cards. It didn't go away.
right? And if they're not here
The
on the
post
20th,
office
they
drops
wouldn't
off
be
the
able to
green
come
card into your
anyway.
mailbox and leaves it there. you have a choice of going to the post office and picking up the registered letter. If you choose not to, then you choose not to. But you still have notified, and it's still sitting in there. They don't, the post office doesn't go and take it out. The green card stays in your mailbox. So,
It's not gonna say October 20th on it, though.
I'm sorry?
It's not gonna say October 20th on it.
And I don't think they know, it could be something insignificant to them, that, you know, low on the per.
Yeah, we can give you their names and numbers, but I mean, this is just common practice. I mean, we don't have the facility to send somebody out there and knock on a door and, you know, who's home and who's not home and stuff like that, but we'll, yeah. Okay, all right.
Can I clarify notices, because I went through a lot to make
Okay.
sure they're all right? Just 1 second.
Sure.
237 Sea Hill Road did not pick up at the post office. He called my office, said he was wheelchair bound, and we emailed him a copy of the letter.
Okay.
So he's taken care of. 2344 picked up our notice on October 4th. We did not receive the green card back as of yet. 2480, this is direct abutter to the property. North Branford records indicate owner to be J.P. Morgan Chase in Florida. Our letter was returned by the post office, unable to be forwarded.
Nobody lives there.
2479 Foxen Road. Owner has moved and the forwarding order has expired per the U.S. Post Office. 18 Dinglewood, and 16 Clear Lake, and 259 Sea Hill. Per the post office, the letters have not been picked up as of yet. So I did everything possible.
Oh, yeah, no, we did everything correctly. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
no,
know
no.
how I could get.
No. I mean, we have Bob, we have that process, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, if somebody wants to contact somebody who did not pick them up for whatever reasons, we can do that, but we've done everything we could to notify, everybody within the area.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, so this will be held over, to, our next meeting, Thursday, October 14th. Thank you very much.
20th.
20th. Sorry, 20th. Okay, our next order of business is old business. It's a PZ application 2016-11. So we can give everybody a moment to clear out, and then you can.
Carrie, has the police received any noise complaints from that?
Well, we wouldn't know.
No, well, I have not.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
For the record, I'm Mark Young. I'm a land surveyor with Waldman Associates, representing the applicants in this project. I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with this with the subdivision proposal. Since the last meeting, there are a few items that we have changed. Number one, the proposed storm drain, we've decided to use a 12-inch pipe rather than 15 as originally planned. Our stormwater calculation indicate a fairly low flow, less than half of a cubic foot per second. So a 12-inch pipe will be more than adequate and save the owners considerable sum. Let's see, a couple of comments or suggestions from Kurt Weiss, our town engineer. This parcel here, which is now labeled as open space, if the commission decides not to accept a transfer to Regional Water Authority, that will be relabeled as not a building lot. The owners want to retain, or the potential owners want to retain the possibility of a deal with Regional Water Authority. And on this particular catch basin here, on the edge of the driveway, that's going to pick up some of the overland flow from the north. Kurt suggested that we use an open back catch basin so the water will flow into the back and won't have to overtop the curb. We think that's a good suggestion, so that will be implemented. And other than that,
Do you have any comments, Carrie? Did anybody have to review it? Any reviews, I mean?
No, I mean.
Did Kurt have any comments about going from 15 to 12? Did he review the calculations?
He reviewed everything.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
No, the three of us, I feel like, have been bouncing this around, going
Yeah.
back and forth.
Dirk Oswald and Associates, we did provide a revised stormwater analysis for that change.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
I think just to rehash some of the issues that need to be decided on tonight by the commission, the fee in lieu of, that needs to be decided as a, versus providing the open space. I think you all remember the issues or challenges with some of the open space. So that's one of the issues. The other is just kind of procedurally, the applicant requested, this is all like in my notes here, the applicant requested waivers, which include the sidewalks, which is obvious why they wouldn't make sense on Totucket Road, and also concrete curbing. So I think just as part of the motion that I've drafted, if the commission is interested in voting tonight, I've included both of those. Also, the third item is, I've talked with the assessor and just the numbering of the lots. Instead of having 440, he wants to actually eliminate that entirely, so it would be 442 Totucket Road, 438, and 436.
Okay, so on yours, you have 440.
Right, so
Okay,
that should be 442.
Right.
And I have it included in the motion as well.
Right.
And I can go through the other conditions
Okay.
that are pretty standard once we get there.
Well, I think one of them, like Carrie mentioned, one of the things that we've been kind of tossing out has been the fee in lieu of.
Yep.
So, just want to,
I have a question. I've been thinking about this. Is it legal for me to think about this stuff at home?
Yeah, you can think about it.
Keeping you up on that, Dennis.
Keep it inside that cranium of yours.
Depends if you're an
Long as wait, Ron, do you talk in your sleep?
Yeah, but I ignore me.
All right.
The three lots, are they gonna be transferred within the family, or are they gonna be up for sale?
They're gonna be, they intend to
Just
live.
name and.
Excuse me?
The two owners intend to live there, and the third lot is for somebody else that they know or may know of, or may in the family may want to build their house.
Just
But
your
the
name and,
intention for
just
them
give
to
your
live
name
there.
and,
I'm Attorney Alfred Zullo, I'm sorry.
Yep.
thank you.
So they intend to build their houses and live there.
But they don't own the land currently. Correct?
No, we
Right, is it-
have a contingency in our contract.
Right.
That's contingent on this board's approval of the subdivision, and then we will proceed to closing after we receive an approval.
It's not a transfer within the family.
No, we're buying it from a third party.
That was.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I didn't understand your question, no.
You've been thinking about that at night?
Really, Ron?
Nobody ever answered that question.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so, any other questions?
Smart question.
It would make a difference.
Two questions. One question was, the driveways were gonna be only paved a certain distance and then be gravel?
they'll be paved wherever they're over 6%, which is most of this driveway, which goes west to Lot 3. This driveway to Lot 2 is much more level, and it's the owner's, potential owner's option as to whether it'll be paved.
That was my question. What is the grade requirement that requires it to be paved versus gravel?
I have a note on here, if it's over 6%, and
Yes.
that's a
Right.
general standard, over 6% will be paved. This here is much less than that.
Okay, the next question I had was on either the open space or fee in lieu of. If it's approved and you subdivide it into 3 lots, does that fee become paid then when all 3 lots are created? Because in here it says after lot is sold.
At the time of sale is when we require the fee be paid, so if, I think that one scenario that had been discussed is that the 2 rear lots would be developed first. So at the time of sale of those 2 fees would be collected. If the front lot was not developed for 5-10 years, that fee would not be collected.
So when they come in and want to develop the property, they have to pay it then?
Once the land is sold. So someone could purchase the land and decide not to build for a number of years, but we would collect it at the time of sale.
So the current owner, as soon as the current owner sells it, that's when we would get those fees.
Sells the lot, each
Right.
individual lot.
So
Right,
when it's transferred from the current owner, the Hart estate, when it's transferred to our clients, Mr. DeLongo and Mr. Cahill, that's when it would be collected.
Correct.
Yes, for each.
Because they would get the whole piece.
They would get the
Right,
whole
they get the whole
thing.
piece.
So now when we transfer the individual lots
Yes.
to Mr. Cahill and one Mr. Longo, that's when.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then the third lot, that's not, potentially is up for sale later on, and that won't happen until that's transferred.
Correct.
They consider that lot kind of a buffer anyhow.
Okay.
But the fee is actually put on the deed.
yes, and it's put on the plans.
Yes.
Right, which are all recorded on the land records.
Do we, we could do a quick straw vote on that if you wanna do a fee in lieu of. So just.
It's a standard formula, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying, is it, we have to decide if we want that. So what
I
I'm
think
saying,
after
you and I-
much discussion last time, I reached the
Do a
conclusion
straw
that we
vote.
should get.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Yeah.
We should get.
Ron, you on board on this?
I'm sorry, what was the?
No, he was
Fee.
saying after discussion, he's an aye for doing the fee in lieu of. David is aye.
Collecting a fee upon sale, the town would get a fee.
Right, upon the sale.
Yeah.
That's when the town gets the fee.
Well, whenever
yes.
it does, and,
Right.
yeah.
Instead
No
of,
open space.
instead of
No-
waiving it and taking the open space.
Yeah,
right.
no open space, because there's too much,
Right. Right. Okay.
there's too much baggage with
We're
that.
just-
with the-
Yeah,
with
we-
the
I just
UI
want,
and-
that's
He's
what
getting
I'm
a general
Yes.
straw vote.
Yeah, so that's what we want. So,
Yeah.
is there any other questions we have for them?
And then there was the potential of selling that strip to the water company. It might require relaying out the lots to show that, right?
Yeah, if that does not go
I do,
through, then
take that one, I'm just gonna go
the
through these.
parcel would disappear and the lot line
Got the
would
right
be
numbers in
extended.
there?
Okay.
Just correct the places.
I'm just gonna, do you mind if I highlight just some other conditions that,
yeah,
that
please.
we, that Kurt and I and the applicant talked about? Let me just see. Another one is that a note be placed on the map submitted for signature stating that the lots 1, 2, and 3 require an engineered septic system. I think that's standard anyway, but that was confirmed by East Shore Health. Also that a note be placed on the map for each of the lots that an engineered site plan has to be reviewed and approved by the engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit. And we also talked about landscaping, the concern being that when the front lot is developed, we just didn't wanna have it clear cut. So the subdivision regs allow for, and actually state specifically, the landscaping that be provided. So it just talks about on here, a note be placed on the map submitted for signature stating that the engineered site plans for lots 1, 2, and 3 notes the trees to be planted and/or landscaping to be provided in accordance with section 306. It's pretty general. Also, just to note that, with the drainage, now that it's on private property, the town engineer had some concerns, rightfully so, about just maintenance of that. So one of the conditions is that a drainage agreement be prepared and recorded on the land records, for lots 1 and 3, talking about who's responsible. And the applicant did provide a template that we reviewed, which looks fine. And, the location of any transformers, so those utility boxes be located on the engineered plans. And also that cross easements for the driveway access to lots 2 and 3 be prepared and recorded on the land records for lots 2 and 3 prior to the sale.
And then how about the, what did you call it again?
Not a building lot?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's on here.
okay.
So it says, 0.86 acres of land located on the western boundary of the property in the town of East Haven shall be identified by meets and boundary dimension survey data on the recorded subdivision plans and shall be designated as not a building lot. so I don't know if you wanna read all of these or just.
It's up to you.
You're not gonna read all 20.
No, just I'll say standard plus,
There's no standard.
there's no standard ones?
No. There, there's not. Trust me.
All right.
Put your feet in my hands.
Can we say per that document? I mean.
None of these are standard?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
these
could
are,
say
there's
per,
a lot of
per
standards,
the draft
right?
document, I think
Yeah,
is
per the
okay.
draft document.
Why would you do that?
Well, per the motion drafted, I guess,
Yeah.
per the motion drafted.
Yeah. Give it a shot.
Okay, there we go. There's a lot of pressure here, Harry. All right. I move to approve planning and zoning application 2016-11, 440 Totucket Road subdivision with the waiver of sidewalks and concrete curbing, Assessor Map 36, Lot 4. It's a Zone R80, owner Florence P. and Wilbur K. Hart Jr. Trust, applicant Chris DeLongo and Sean Cahill, as shown on plans prepared by Waldo and Associates LLC entitled Subdivision Plan Property NF Hart 440 Totucket Road, North Branford, Connecticut, July 4th, 2016. Last revised September 15th, 2016. Sheet 1 of 5. Site Development Plan Subdivision Property of Wilbur K. Jr. and Florence P. Hart, Trustees, 440 Totucket Road, North Branford, Connecticut, July 4th, 2016. Last revised October 4th, 2016. Sheet 2 of 5. Site Development Plan Subdivision Property of Wilbur K. and Jr. Florence P. Hart, Trustees, 440 Totucket Road, North Branford, Connecticut, July 4, 2016. Last revised October 4, 2016. Sheet 3 of 5. Sedimentation and Erosion Control Notes, Subdivision Property of Wilbur K. Jr. and Florence P. Hart, Trustees, 440 Totucket Road, North Branford, Connecticut, July 4, 2016. Last revised September 15, 2016. Sheet 4 of 5. And the storm drain profile, Hart re-subdivision, 440 Totucket Road, North Branford, Connecticut, August 30th, 2016. Last revised October 4th, 2016. Sheet 5 of 5. And in the application as submitted under 2016-11 with all conditions noted in the draft motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like him to read that 2 more times.
Yeah.
We don't want the list.
I will definitely summarize it.
I wanna, so there's 18, just to confirm, there was, how many, 18?
There are 18 conditions.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just wanna make sure that
In
was.
the draft motion, yeah.
It's being divided into 3 lots. We don't have to say they become 436, 438, and 442.
It's already, it's in
Yeah,
the
it's
20
in there.
conditions.
Yep.
Yep.
It just said 3 lots, didn't say the numbers.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, in the,
In this draft
Oh,
motion,
okay.
yeah, there's one,
the condition
Right,
14, it
right,
states
in my
those.
notes, you're right, Dave.
Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
it was incorrect.
Any discussion?
No discussion from the.
Alright. So this was a public hearing, correct? So we.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
Yeah, it was.
no, we closed the public
No,
hearing.
no, I'm just saying, but I mean, it was said,
Oh.
so you have to, when you have to vote with a reason.
I'm sorry, yes, yes. Reasons for approving this,
Yeah.
the subdivision, yes.
I vote to approve. I think it's a conforming use, R80 zone.
David, you second it?
Yes, I could vote for the same reasons that it is, opens more residential space in town.
I also vote yes, it's a reasonable subdivision, and I think we've addressed the drainage issues, and I too do not like the fee. But that's my personal comment, because I just had to pay one myself.
And also vote, yes, I think we answered some of the concerns of, some of the individuals who spoke at the public hearing, made necessary changes, so that motion, the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have that draft?
I gave it.
You gave that to Carrie?
She gave that to you? I gave that
Okay.
back, right, yeah.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Yep.
Okay, continue with, old business. Has there been any update on, application 2014-15-6?
No, the briefs are going to be filed with the state by the end of this month.
What's that mean? I mean, I know what a brief, but who filed the brief? Somebody from North Branford?
No, the applicant and the petitioner file the briefs with the adjudicatory
Oh, okay.
office, the Office of Adjudications.
And what are the briefs
That's all I
for,
know.
though?
So the briefs are, I believe, based on the hearing, the public hearing, and the presentations that
Okay.
all occurred in September.
The brief is their final saying, right?
Wow.
Sorry?
The brief they're filing is gonna be their decision.
The parties file briefs with
Okay.
the Office of Adjudications, and then that officer makes a determination. So the timeline is still yet to be determined, because there could be an intervener, is what the officer explained to me. So if there's an intervention, then that could throw things off.
Okay. New business, Town of North Branford, 2016-17 through 21-22. I don't know if I'll be around then. Capital Improvement Program.
I think you all received that in
It's
your,
not that far away.
in your packet. I don't know if you have any questions, if you wanna take a look at it together.
Yeah, let's look at it together, because Janice and Carrie, I don't,
And try and
So-
answer any questions you may have, but.
So, once again, is this something that they always, they need us to approve, but we have no input into, right?
It's just a
Uh-oh.
courtesy
Don't
copy?
answer that,
Well,
Carrie,
I
because
know.
he gets heated.
Last year I wasn't, you
No,
know,
you were pretty.
I'm getting older,
yeah,
so I'm getting a
pretty
little more
tame.
mellow,
You were
mellow around
pretty
this.
tame last time.
Yeah.
I guess the answer is there is opportunity for this board to be involved at a different stage in the process. You know, we could have comments starting in the spring, I would say. You know, if you have comments now for, you know, in the future, projects that you're thinking of, that you have questions about or concerns with, or you wanna support, I think we could pass those comments along now.
We can pass them through our liaison.
Yeah, let me ask a question. Is the zoning enforcement officer part-time always funded? Is there any risk of, because that's an important position, as you know, better than
Yes.
probably anyone.
Yes.
So does that ever come up, that there's challenges for that?
Yes.
Because we should have
That
strong
does
say
come
in
up.
that, to say that's a very important role that we need to continue.
Thank you. I
Not minimize,
appreciate
but
that.
if
Right.
anything, expand, but
Right.
at least keep the same, right?
Yes, so that is true, but this document is not that opportunity to
Okay.
do it. So it would be during the budget hearings.
Yep. Gotcha.
And if
Right.
anyone would like to attend those
So-
budget hearings and be part of that, that would be great.
What, what should we be looking at? So we should be looking at 2017-18? I mean, yeah, 17-18, right?
16, 17. Well,
No, we're,
I mean, you can look at
Birdland drainage reconstruction.
16,
17, right, 17, 18 is what is being, 16, 17. 16, 17 is what is being immediately
Okay.
reviewed.
So is there
Those are the most immediate projects
Okay,
coming up.
16, 17.
Because that's the
So
current
16,
fiscal year.
17, anything we need to, anything we need to look at?
I mean, I'm not sure, you know, what
Where- I mean-
specifically you're interested in.
Well, sometimes I just wanna make sure what we have for.
So these are all capital projects, so these
Oh,
are all
okay.
larger town projects.
Oh, okay, this is
so
the actual
here-
budget,
So
right,
here's
right.
one,
Gotcha.
if you look at page 8,
2018-19.
so this is a little ways out,
Yep.
but the third item down are the welcome signs. I just mentioned that because that's a project that I've been involved in, so those are signs.
Where is this? Oh, welcome signs, I
Page
guess.
8,
Yep,
yep.
yep, yep.
Welcome signs, we've put in $15,000. A sign company that I've been talking with has kind of the top of the line sign. Again, it would be a welcome to North Branford or welcome to Northford sign at about $5,000, which is pretty steep.
What's an
but
LED townwide upgrade?
Those may be streetlights. I don't
Streetlights
know.
going
Do
to
you
LED.
know, Counselor Miller?
Probably around buildings, yeah, around buildings and everything.
Exterior or just interior?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Let me just go back and take a look again.
Page 8 is 2018, 2019.
Yep.
Yeah. It's right around the corner.
2018? It's 2 years away.
Yeah, but we can, that's the best time to weigh in is now on something like that.
Wow.
So the Arthur Road Bridge replacement isn't gonna happen?
Oh, actually, one thing is, that was brought up tonight, is the plan of conservation and development.
Yep.
That,
It's next year, right?
that I know is included in my budget.
Jerome Harrison needs replaced before already. Jerome
Oh, there it
Harrison,
is. Page 7,
$17,000 for
fourth down.
ground floor replacement.
Thank you. Yep.
50,000, yeah.
Yep.
Where's that?
Page 7, fourth item down. 50,000 for the plan, update plan of conservation and development. Good, I think the last time it was like 34 or something, 35, right? 10 years ago.
So I don't know how much money was in it. I don't remember how much we spent.
I thought it was, well, I think we spent that much on it, is what I mean. I don't know what was in there, but.
Kara, do you know how much $95,000 buys in police cars? Is that
Buys
one?
in what?
Police cars.
This is planning and zoning, not police
I
commission.
don't know.
We don't have any budget. See, 95,000.
We have like
this year.
$30.
Well, I know that, I mean, not to
Two
not to
conferences.
sidetrack, but I know that, and I don't know if it's North Branford, but I know some communities work together.
Yeah.
They make mass purchases and they get a
I think it's two
discount.
cars.
And they get a discount also if they buy, like, I know of some other towns that only needed 3, but it was beneficial just to buy 4
Yeah.
for the amount of how many they get.
Savings,
so.
yeah. All right, I don't
Either
see
that or it's
anything.
one Lamborghini. No, I think they would be one of the
Actually,
BMW or something
I
like that.
just realized,
Is that enough for our plan of
the,
conservation? and development?
update of plan of conservation and development is actually in there twice.
Oh, good.
2 different years?
Nope, same year,
Give us more money?
Good.
100,000.
Don't say anything.
So
Don't
it's-
say anything.
so
So if they get rid of one.
How about,
they'll forget-
when
they'll
are we
leave the
gonna
other
do
one in.
a, legal review of regulations or something?
That would be nice.
Something like that? Yeah,
Okay.
50 grand to do it now.
Well, so if we can combine the two, so if we
Yeah,
have an
yeah.
update of the plan of conservation and development and looking at our
Mhm.
zoning regulations.
Right.
Bring 'em up.
50 may
Yeah.
be a stretch, but.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, what we could do is tell town council, we need 2 50s, but instead of that, we'll split the difference, we'll do 75.
Would that do it? Legal review?
Hopefully they're not watching, and we, put that through.
Hey, Carrie, one quick question. Do you know what the Birdland drainage reconstruction is?
That's what's going on right now, I believe. So that's, one of the different roads, Hummingbird,
Oh, that, yeah,
Jay, and
Up
up in,
Skylark.
right, Skylark,
Up at-
up
They
in
actually
Up
Northford.
Walnut?
They're
Walnut.
doing,
White
redoing
Hollow
the
Road?
drainage and repaving.
Yeah.
It's a huge project.
Why?
Why?
I hope so.
I knew there was
Storm
a problem with
drains,
drainage up there
storm
for a while.
drains,
I didn't know if-
because-
Storm
that's what
drains,
they have-
storm
That's why
pipes.
they have
The
water,
department
new,
asked for
sewer and
150.
water up there because.
The
right,
manager,
this-
150,000 was
wells were-
I'm
recommended,
not
was
sure exactly
requested.
why, but,
The
yeah, it's.
Manager
There's-
proposed
there's-
125.
water and
The council gave them
water-
2 million.
There's no wells and septic up there, right?
Okay.
Right? I don't remember.
That's budgetary stuff. We're just talking about our stuff, right?
Okay. So there's patchwork to do all at once.
Instead of patching it, yeah. That was a huge sea change, to do the project and to do it correctly. It's ongoing.
It's like a war zone.
George,
sometimes.
a long time ago, and I mean, I think
This
this
is
is
called
well
Birdland.
before I moved in, when they started developing that area, didn't they had septic and wells
Yeah.
over there, and then because there was a lot of flooding and did they, is that all connected to, city water now?
I don't believe it's
Nope,
connected to city.
not water, no.
At all.
Okay.
But there's been tons of flooding.
I thought they had to put, I thought they
They
had
have
to connect
they
to
have
some of
sewers.
those, like White Hollow in that area.
Yeah,
I thought-
sewers.
They do have sewers up there.
Sewers.
Right, oh, okay, I didn't know if they had water too.
I don't think they have water.
Okay, so they have
Sewers.
wells, yeah. Alright.
Yeah, the sewer line was run off.
All right, so what is?
Because of what you just said.
Do we need to do anything, Ms. Carey? Do we need to?
You have to decide if you are recommending approval to the council, or if you have any issues, questions.
I mean, from first glance, I don't have any issues.
I drafted them.
I usually have the issue with the budget.
Yeah.
No, that's the budget.
Oh, that's the budget.
Yeah,
You're right.
capital
Yeah.
improvements, yeah.
Yeah. Let's approve that. Get $100,000 for the
But see-
plan of conservation and
see,
zoning.
Carrie-
Approve it. I approve that.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission report favorably on the town council's Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-24 referral on the fiscal year 2016 to 2017 through 2021 and 2022 capital improvement plan.
Second? Somebody second?
Second?
Any discussion?
It's out of our control, right?
No, anyway, you can,
You're out of control.
If we voted the whole thing down,
We're just voting
You're rec-
favorably or non-favorably.
Yes,
It doesn't, they don't,
Right.
it doesn't have
Right.
any impact.
So, right.
yes, I'm,
all right, so all in favor of voting favorably on the capital improvement? Okay.
I'll vote favorably.
Aye,
Aye.
aye. All right, that passes 4-0. No, new business, review fee structure for copies of regulations and plans.
So I noticed in our office that there were different fees for just regular copies. So I wanted to just bring it to the commission's attention, to get your input on this. So these are, basic copies of maps. So this is if the public comes to the department and requests copies of our zoning regulations, wetlands, subdivision, zoning maps, et cetera. So I had noticed.
Everything's on the webpage, right? Just to be clear? This is,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes, they are.
Mhm.
Yep, so people can access them, print them out themselves.
Right, yep.
The farmland survey and report may not be on the website, and the economic development strategy may not be, but most things are. We can make sure that everything is. So the question is just to increase these fees, really, and I also found differing amounts. So I just wanted to make sure that everything everywhere was correct. Our zoning regulations are very thick.
Yep.
I think $20 is not enough,
that's for the whole-
especially.
that's for the whole book.
That's for the
Yeah.
whole book. Especially when each page is 50 cents. We're not gonna
Mhm.
charge 50 cents a page, but
Mhm.
it's, this is
Yeah.
the entire thing and that's
Yep.
double-sided.
Mhm.
So I think $50 is reasonable. Well, in regulations, you can't really vote on, but I'll ask the wetlands agency for that. Zoning map, again, that we really have to send out because it would be in color.
Yeah, wow.
So, and we can't, copy the large maps in color.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
To,
Is that enough for a large colored zoning map?
To clarify that, it just says small and large, but you're saying it's color. Should it state that it's color and what size it is?
Sure.
Do they know?
Sure.
Question?
Because that's 11 by 17, right?
What, the large one?
The large zoning map?
No,
Or is that
large.
the small? That's the small
That's the
zoning map?
small.
That's the
The
small,
large one's
okay, yeah.
like the
So,
trees of the town. This is-
to your point, yeah,
Right.
that's a good idea.
Right,
So they know what size it is.
So that's a full size then?
right.
So 35, wow, that's,
Is that how
is
much
that
it
enough?
costs?
Well, I think that would be enough.
Okay.
Because
You
we
would know
would,
better
we
than
would
me, yeah.
use our consultant to
Yep.
print it out.
Okay.
And they
Good.
have the ability to do that.
Maybe we should ask him what he gets, what he pays or charges for the
Yeah.
copies too, to make sure, like you said, it's enough.
Right.
Okay.
So that would be like 36 by 24 would be the
Saying this-
size.
They can go online, they can put it on a stick and go down to Staples themselves and have it printed, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Everything's up there.
you should make them wanna do that.
Yeah, right, that's true.
So if it's gonna,
Good.
All right, that's good. Anything else? All right. All right, we have a bond release.
That we're gonna continue.
Okay, that's out. And then item D is request for a modification to landscaping plan 14 Farmington Drive, lot 19.
Farmington Drive.
That's, I didn't know that was Farmington Drive.
Yeah.
So this is
It's,
Sean's,
Schwantz, yeah.
so I'll just bring this map over.
That's the red barn on 17, right?
Right. So there's homes, if you haven't been by there recently, there's at least 4, maybe 5 homes that are either finished or definitely under construction.
There's one house close, right?
So they wanted we waived the sidewalks, right?
You can't see
Or
anything.
they wanted us to waive the sidewalks.
Right.
Well, that was in the original.
Well, the sidewalks were
Where-
waived
what's 22?
On one side.
on one side, they were not waived on the
Interior.
interior,
Where's lot 19?
or not loop, land.
Where's lot 19 on this?
Lot 19 is right here. So this, I'm just passing out the letter that I received from, here's yours.
And help me out here, the 17 is,
Over,
Or
up, way up here. So
This
the,
way?
yep,
Okay, you
back,
go
back
in-
here,
okay.
you
This is
go
the house
in
you can,
here.
this is the house you can see right now then, right?
No.
there's one down here too. There's- oh, that's-
The house that you can see now is back here. There's, I don't know if this one's been built. There's the model home.
Yeah.
That's right about here.
Okay, then you can't see
Drive
any
in,
of
the
these.
bridge is about here.
Yeah, this one started. That
This one's
just-
done,
that's
19's done.
But that's 19.
And then these, I think one of these is under construction.
So what do they want?
So the new owner at 19 is looking for some changes to the landscaping. And I'm bringing it to the commission because for an interior lot, our zoning regulations, or subdivision regulations really, both require landscaping. And his concern is that it's going to narrow the driveway too much and he doesn't wanna be confined in.
Yeah, this is
So-
19, right? So between 19 and 18?
Oh.
Right, so on
These ones
the-
right here. It's 18,
He's
ones here.
looking, these 5 trees, he's looking to decrease, so get rid of these 3. You mean 17
Middletown Ave.
Yeah, 17.
is over there.
Over here.
Yep, so the bridge
So he's
is
saying
over
he doesn't
here.
have a view of Totucket Mountain?
Which is behind.
No, it's gonna encroach on the driveway.
Right, he's more concerned about the driveway. So the house was built, it's actually shifted, so they face the road more. He's concerned that this is going to kind of narrow this driveway.
I came here a little late to the party. Where's 18 and 19?
Here, here.
19 is here.
And this is 18.
18.
So
this
these,
is
these
his-
5 trees we're talking right here.
He wants to remove 3 of these and 2 here.
Well, just move the trees back from the driveway. Just take these
Well,
3.
Yeah, but I mean, he
and
also
move
doesn't
them
want,
back
he
here.
just doesn't want them. I mean, you can see that, it's not a matter of
Right.
driveways.
So the other thing is, when I went out there, this hashed area is all conservation area, so that has not been touched or
Mhm.
removed or cleared. It's also wetland area, so this dashed line shows the upland review area. So this, and this is all wetlands. These boulders are in place, so that shows that they cannot disturb anything over here. Having a tree right there, I'm suggesting maybe like a high bush blueberry here and here, and then if you are amenable to removing those 3 trees, maybe
So
do that.
he wants these 3 on his property and 2 over here, you're saying?
Right.
We didn't specify what type of,
I think we did.
not the arborvitae's.
Yeah, right here.
No.
Landscape buffer plant material shall be minimum of 6 feet
Yeah.
in height and 3 inches in caliper
Mhm.
at the time of planting. No
And I think the
more
approved plan did
than 15 feet on center.
suggest a kind, but,
Well, the only thing I wanna say is that these 3 trees are on his property line, these 2 trees are on the other adjacent property line. I don't have a problem, just my thought, I mean, if he wants to take some of the trees off that are on his property line, but if these folks don't request reduction and they want them on their property line, they need to be there.
Mhm.
Because we're not, you know, if these people want a buffer, or if these people want a buffer, I know it's a long way, but they should have the right to have that.
Well,
That's their
you
property.
can't remove those trees, the only ones on his
Yeah,
property.
but he's asking for all these to be removed.
These 3 and 2 right here on his property.
I thought I was talking about all 5 of these.
Right, so he's
He's asking
talking
for all of
about,
them.
you know, and
Oh.
as many as could be
Right.
eliminated.
He should only be able to limit the ones on his property,
Right, but
but
there's,
then.
but there's no, these haven't even been put in because these, I don't think these property, I
Right,
think so.
correct, those have
yeah.
not been sold.
This, okay, so what I'm saying is that, I don't mind if
Yeah.
somebody doesn't wanna have it, if he wants to put, like you said, if you wanna put some bushes down here,
Mhm.
which I think that's a great idea, but he can eliminate these 3 and 2 here, but he must understand that if this property owner comes in and wants to plant in there,
Mhm.
they are allowed to do, I think he needs to know that, cause if he's talking about a view and then they just build these trees up,
Right.
he needs to understand that we wanna make sure that the other property owners have the opportunity to have that buffer.
Right,
So it's not just, having to remove it.
okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter, they have the right to plant a tree on their property. Doesn't
Right.
matter what he,
Well,
doesn't matter what he
Well,
thinks.
and
Well-
I'm bringing it though to the board
Well,
because
yeah, they do, it's
of-
their property, they
Yeah.
own it. Once they buy it, they can put a tree on their.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that if we go in and say, no, we can eliminate all those, he might just take it that they,
Yeah,
they-
no, I know what
they
you're
could
saying.
never put something in there,
I'm
we
saying-
wanna make sure that, the other property owners, we're not affecting them.
Well, and I'm just bringing it to this board because at a minimum, our zoning regulations say that this is what they're, we're looking for.
Oh.
Planted based on, this separation
Does-
and in order to create buffer.
Right.
Is this gonna,
If the property owner doesn't want it though, now at least, he's proactively asking us as opposed to
Mhm.
planting it and then cutting them down.
Yeah.
is this gonna, I always worried, not worried, but I always am concerned that, does this open up precedent? Is every person on this parcel gonna, you're gonna come in and request these?
Well, they don't have to come, just like Carrie said, Bill, they can plant them, they can just cut them down. And who's gonna, to be honest with you, who's gonna go out there and inspect every tree of every
enforce it? That's
subdivision
the
on
challenge.
Branford? So at least this individual's coming to us and asking, so we can, like Carrie said, we can make a recommendation that they put something in there, where the wetlands is. Say, okay, we understand what you're trying to do, but understand that if the other property owner wants to put in a buffer, they will be allowed to do that.
They're not actually in the wetland though, right? They're
No, and
maybe
so I
outside the
did
wetland.
bring this to the wetlands agency to get their input, and they,
As long as they're
said,
outside the
look, for
upland
that
review.
one, we would, they wouldn't mind seeing a high bush blueberry or something there, but
Yeah.
Well,
that was really the only one that
We're
they
sticking
had
with-
jurisdiction over.
We're sticking with native species, right?
Right, right.
this letter though, it says, that he's in favor of putting more over here in front on 20.
Right, planting some proposed trees as they will separate.
Yeah.
So that's where he wanted to go down
Yeah.
by about 2 trees. And really, I think it's maybe just this first one. I think we
Okay.
could
And then it says,
negotiate.
also it says that
Okay.
there are plenty of trees
Already there?
on, between 18 and 19 that create natural visual barrier already.
It's possible.
Right, so that's this area
That's the
here.
undisturbed upland review
Right.
area.
Right,
Hmm?
this is really vegetated. And again, this house is shifted, so that's the other concern is that, he's looking this way, so he doesn't wanna be totally blocked in, which,
It could be a security issue.
yeah.
Okay, I don't have a problem.
Carrie, if you wanna do that, that's fine, but just if you could reiterate that the other,
Right, only on his property.
right, but just make sure he
And-
understands that, the other property owners, if they want to kind of conform to the plan they had, they can put trees there.
Mhm. Okay.
Okey dokey. Alright, what else we got?
That is everything that I have.
Anything coming up for the 20?
Just no new applications.
Okay.
Oh, we may be, the zoning officer and I are looking at some text amendments to the zoning regulations. They're pretty much administrative, although they could have some impact. So one is more clearly defining, livestock, which you wouldn't think would be a big issue. Although we've had one instance where there was a question of, is a pony a pet or is it livestock? So we're trying to clearly differentiate between, sounds ridiculous, but hooved animals and camelids, which is something that does not have a hoof, I've learned, but like llamas. So those are all going to be, we're proposing that they be defined as livestock, so that you can clearly differentiate between a pet and livestock, because we've had this issue of a pony being a pet, not livestock. And we've had rulings both ways from actually the same attorney.
Isn't livestock something you get a product from?
Well.
That's a chicken.
Well, so we're also proposing to
A hoop.
clearly
A hoop.
define poultry as well. So,
Is,
Oh, the life.
Poultry has to be edible, right?
is a parakeet poultry, or is it a?
oh, that is a good question. And that's the other challenge with this, is that I think our zoning regulations do a good job of being general and not trying to call out every single use, because if you try and do that, you're inevitably going to leave something out. So if you can generalize like this camelid and, you know, hooved animal, it helps narrow it down. So you're not calling out every single thing. So that's going to be coming, and then we're also looking at the subdivision regulations and looking at the fire suppression systems and what's required. So like with 440 Totucket, they were not required to provide the fire suppression system, so I've been working with the fire chief to see if he'd be interested in setting a threshold to say X number of lots or X square footage would require a 10,000 gallon tank be on site. So that's something that other towns do that we have not had in our regulations in the past.
What's it, just 10,000 gallon tank of water? That's,
Mhm.
who
So-
maintains it? Who maintains the property owner?
Shantz Farm does that, right?
Shantz did it.
Shantz did
The
it.
town actually would be responsible
Well, they
for
don't have a-
maintaining it.
They have a storage tank, or they just
They
have,
do.
they have a retention?
10,000
They have a
gallon tank.
10,000, yep, they agreed to a
Drawing a blank on
10,000
that.
gallon
Yeah.
tank.
But they also have the
That was the fire
retention
marshal.
pond in there, too.
The fire marshal requested that.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that the fire department has portable ponds that they, the canvas things they set up, and the tankers just, you know,
They-
load into that and they pump out of it.
They have pumper trucks that can pump
Right,
up
so
to
they,
it,
it's the,
but
right,
need
they have
water.
the tanks, the pumper
Yeah.
trucks, but I don't, they've looked
need
into
water.
those canvas type of systems. But I don't know if it's expense or reliability
We
or.
weren't very good on Tucket Road.
No.
One of the, you get about 2 gallons in it and then start, you know,
Yeah.
the slope and everything, so, I don't know.
So,
Yeah, we'll do, okay, that'll be good. All right, somebody make a motion, please.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.